Hello viewers, welcome to this program. Now today we will discuss about Constitution of India and human trafficking. In the earlier session we have discussed fundamental rights and the preamble to the Constitution of India, and today we will relate to the Directive Principles of State Policy, and you will try to understand how does Directive Principles of State Policy Part 4 of the Constitution of India can be related to a person who has been trafficked in India. We know that a person who has been trafficked in India, it is very difficult for that person to reintegrate in the society, because he does not feels that he will be looked by the commoners, by the family members and by the society with respect and dignity. So he lacks self-confidence. He is a person who has been abused. He is a person who has been tortured. So it is very difficult for that person to bring in that faith and trust in the society, to bring that faith and trust that yes, he will be able to live a normal life just as we are living as commoners. So Directive Principles of the State Policy in this Article 37 says that these are not enforceable by any court. So we say that Part 4 of the Constitution of India is not enforceable, whereas Part 3 of the Constitution of India, that is fundamental right, is enforceable by the court of law. But it is the high time wherein as a welfare state, as somebody who is talking about being in 5th generation of human rights, that we also have a binding or enforceable element of these directive principles. Because as a welfare state, you have always a right and a duty to do certain things for the common people. And directive principles are not only principles now, but have to be mandated by the legislation so that we do not have violations of human rights. Otherwise, we cannot say that we have left 1st generation of human rights wherein civil and political rights were there, 2nd generation of human rights wherein we had economic, social and cultural rights, 3rd generation of human rights wherein we had group rights, 4th generation of human rights where we had sustainability issues, we had intergenerational equity issues, and then we had the present has to be conserved and preserved for the future. Then 5th generation of human rights wherein we are talking about can machines, robots take our place, a place of human mind. So when we are arguing so much, when we are talking about sustainable development goals, then we cannot say that it is still not the right time to have these directive principles enforced in India. Article 38(1) says that the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people. As a welfare state, the state should ensure that public distribution system reaches the masses in a transparent way. The state should also work positively and ensure that the vulnerabilities are removed. How will you have a welfare policy? You have a lot of programs at the center, you have a lot of programs at the state. Some state governments are doing brilliant job in terms of public distribution system. There the transparent system is there. Why can't we have a population register for all? Why can't we have Aadhaar for all so that everybody has a bank account? When you talk about sending the money to the account holders, giving benefits to people of public distribution system who have their banks, who have their Aadhaar cards, who have been registered, then why do we argue that we should not have Aadhaar cards for all? If Aadhaar or PAN card is necessary to open a bank account, then why not Aadhaar card for all? If Aadhaar card is that much required to get the benefits under the public distribution system, to get the benefits of different programs and policies of Government of India, even in terms of health benefits, even in terms of job cards under Manrega scheme. So we have to work in coordination between different stakeholders and see to it that everybody is a citizen of India. So everybody has a I card, identity, so that he is not vulnerable, his rights are not abused and violated, and he does not suffer. So if 38(2) talks about that the state should try to minimize the inequalities in income, status and facilities and opportunities. So, we have discussed when we were talking about fundamental rights that, dignity rights are very important. So, if there are inequalities in income, if you say that so many people are still living under the poverty line, then are they not vulnerable? And if they are vulnerable, we have to do something to remove that vulnerability tag. I do not carry a tag here that I am not vulnerable. By seeing me, you can understand whether I am vulnerable or not. I may be vulnerable to the cyber world, but I am not vulnerable in terms of making a reasoned choice. I am not vulnerable in terms of deciding whether I will go to a place of work where I do not know my terms and conditions of work, where I do not know how many hours I have to work, I do not know my work environment, I do not know what will be my remuneration and my service conditions. So if I am not vulnerable, then why is a population still so vulnerable that they cannot make reasoned choices? They sign on a paper, they just put thumb impression on papers, and people say, "Aapne ye paper sign kar diya hai, you have signed this paper. So if you violate this paper, if you do not follow the terms and conditions which are there in the paper, then I will call the police and police will take you." Why I am so ignorant about the laws that anything which is against my dignity, against my dignity rights, against my rights given under the Human Rights Act, Protection of Human Rights Act, rights given under the Constitution of India, either in terms of fundamental rights or in terms of writ jurisdiction, rights given in terms of different legislations or different statutes, then how do I give consent? How is that consent considered as free consent? That consent can never be a free consent if that has been given for illegal purposes, which violates the Minimum Wages Act, which violates the labor laws, which violates my dignity. So for pornography, can I give my consent? For selling and purchasing womb, can I give my consent? For donating my organs, can I give my consent if I am vulnerable? So the state, a welfare state, has to provide skill-based education system. We are living in a country where we have so much of youth population. majority of youth population is in India. So if we provide quality education to them, if we provide skill-based education to them, if we provide them education which has been followed by traditions, so if we link with some traditional know-how, some traditional expertise of that local area and develop that, then we have very good people in terms of, we have very good potential of people as workable force. It is just that we have to channelize this population in terms of quality population, in terms of employability, in terms of population which will develop globally and will contribute to the development of the country. So if everybody gets a dignified job as per their capabilities and interests, then they will not be human trafficked. So in cases of trafficking, we see that this right has been violated. There are so many differences in X income and Y income. Sometimes there is no income. In terms of status, in terms of facilities which are being used by me and by you or by any other person, or the person who is a victim of trafficking, and the opportunities which I have today sitting here and you have listening me, and a person who has been trafficked has in captivity. So everybody has so much of differences, differences in terms of opportunity, differences in terms of income, differences in terms of status and facilities. As a socialist state, we cannot have this. In terms of equality rights, this is a violation. In terms of Article 21, also this is a violation. In terms of Article 21A, this is a violation. In terms of Article 23 and Article 24, this can be related. So if you do not have a dignified job, then that is a violation of your rights under Chapter 3 of the Constitution of India and can be linked with Article 38, Chapter 4 of the Constitution of India, Part 4. Then Article 39 talks about securing adequate means of livelihood for men and women with equal pay for equal work. The health and the strength of the workers should not be abused, and citizens should not be forced by economic necessities to enter into locations that are unsuited to their age or strength. So we have cases of child trafficking wherein children are working as domestic help. So this is violated. In terms of hazardous employments, they are working. Even men and women are working. People are not getting remuneration in terms of equality rights. People are not getting the minimum wages. In terms of bonded labor, for generations people work just to cut down the interest, and the interest never gets over, the principal continues and the interest also increases. So this is a clear-cut violation of Article 39 and even articles under the Fundamental Rights chapter. So in cases of trafficking, this is violated. Then it also talks about freedom and dignity of children and protection of children against exploitation and moral and material abandonment. We have so many labor laws for workplace. We have so many labor laws to define what should be done and what should not be done. We have the Constitution of India. We have child laws. We have women laws. And even for working conditions, we have a lot of laws, but the laws need to be implemented properly, and the cases of trafficking should be, handled strictly, stringently, then by fast track courts, then the conviction rate has to be high. So if the stakeholders are trained, if the stakeholders follow the standing operating procedures, if they are updated to use technology in getting the evidences, in during charge sheet, if you need witnesses, how do you use technology to get the witness statement? If that can be clubbed with technology and addressed by the stakeholders in a multi-dimensional approach, then a person who has been trafficked will get justice by the courts, and the person who has done this crime will be convicted and punished. And conviction rate, if that is high, then we will be able to ensure that Part 3 and Part 4 and the preamble to the Constitution of India is there for all in real sense. Article 39A talks about equal justice and free legal aid to all. When you come to the court of law, the magistrate tells you that these are your legal rights. He will tell you that this is the purpose why you are here. In case you do not have a legal representation, will provide you from the list of advocates who are registered. Then the victims will be aware about their rights of free legal aid. But free legal aid should be provided with a sense of responsibility, merit, and dignity towards the profession. So I will request all my, the professionals who are working in legal aid to provide legal aid with commitment. Because a person who has been trafficked, a lot of violations have already taken place. So if they do not have opportunity of fair trial, if they do not have opportunity to be heard, if they do not have a fair representation in terms of advocates, if you do not turn up during the hearing of the case, if you keep on taking dates, if you do not update your case because you think that this is just another case of human trafficking, then you will not be able to justice to the person who has come here for justice in the court of law. So, dear friends, it is very important that when you take a case of a person who has been trafficked, you have to look into that case with sensibility, responsibility, and accountability towards the profession. Because end of the day, if that person is convicted, then it is a good to the nation at large. Something, you are doing for the nation at large. Somebody will not be abused, somebody's rights will not be violated, somebody will not be tortured if conviction rates are high. Article 40 talks about organization of village panchayats, So villages should work as a unit of self-government. We know that the majority of people live in India in these villages. So if we can provide a better infrastructure in terms of quality education, in terms of infrastructure in the school, colleges and the universities or the degree colleges, in terms of creche facility, in terms of proper roads, proper sanitation, proper medical facility, proper factories to work, proper job employment opportunities to people who are staying in the villages, technological know-how for the people who are doing farmers, addressing the vulnerability at the time when vulnerability arises is very important. The state intervention has to be there immediate in cases of flood, in cases of drought or any natural calamity. You just cannot wait, to see the situation and then respond. Otherwise, the trafficker will make use of that situation. So, at villages, if we are able to address the concerns and issues of farming, if we are able to address the concerns and issues of perishable goods being, spoiled in the farms, if we can provide a channel where, whatever has been grown reaches to the houses and the farmer is able to get the benefit and not the middlemen and the big houses. There are a lot of big stores, which caters to what to have and what not to have. So, if we can address this issue properly and get benefits for the farmers working in the villages as, agriculture people, then we will be able to do justice. If we can have implementation machinery at the grassroots level in terms of panchayats, in terms of, the people who are administrators, looking at the different infrastructure provided at the grassroots, monitoring the infrastructure at the grassroots. Just by sitting in front of your computer, you can see how the teacher is teaching in a classroom in a remote village. So, if we can use technology, everybody has a smartphone these days. In terms when I talk about the teachers, in terms when I talk about the hospitals, in terms when I talk about the public distribution system, in terms when I talk about, the contractors who are making or building roads, building school, colleges, people who are employing others. So, there are so many employment centers which can work at the grassroots level, which can provide skill-based education avenues to all and which can provide job placements to all. So, if we have channelizing, if we are able to channelize different avenues which we use here in the villages, then people will be, educated, people will have access to medical facilities, people will have access to quality education, just not read and write. Read and write, is not the mandate in terms of 5th generation of human rights. So, if we link Aadhaar cards with the bank account, everybody has a PAN card, then you don't have to depend on a person or a money lender to give you loan and then for generations, to abuse you, to exploit you for the payment of that loan. So, we have nationalized bank, we have cooperative banks in all the villages. So, if that can be accessible to all, if we make some provisions wherein we have very good systems of implementation. So, if we have a help desk for people who do not understand how to open an account, how to fill the form to take out money, how to check the statement and how to transfer the money. So, it is just that we have to provide hands to these people and make them capable. Once they start doing this, then they will not be exploited, corruption will also go away, and the systems have to be made transparent and accountable, and the local administration has to use technology to monitor and implement the schemes of the center government and the state governments at the local level. Technical know-how is very important, to the administrators working at the district and state level to have coordination, transparency and motivation in all the villages, so that with motivation, if you address these issues of vulnerability, then trafficking will be something which has been talked in past. So the trafficking related crimes will not be there. The traffickers will not get people to traffic if you make these villages places of local self-government. Bringing transparency in public distribution system is also very important, because you have to utilize the funds available by the center, by the state, for that constituency, for that state to develop. So if you have informed citizenry, if you have people who are accountable and responsible for the country, then they will work and use every penny for the development avenues of that district, and proper coordination between the stakeholders will ensure that the plans and policies are implemented properly, and the benefit reaches to the grassroots. Article 41 says that the state within its economic capacity shall make effective provisions for securing right to work, education, public assistance, and to address the issues of unemployment, old age, sickness, disablement and other undeserved want. So we have a lot of commissions working in India. We have national commissions, we have state commissions. So all these commissions can come together and work to realize Article 41 of the Constitution of India. And if we have a good system of public distribution system, a transparent system of public distribution system, then we will be effectively addressing the issues of work, education, public assistance, unemployment, old age issues, sickness and any kind of disability or any other issue in a broader perspective, in a targeted way. The shelter homes, observation homes, old age homes, whatever homes we have in India should be monitored, and there should be a check mechanism. So if technological interventions can be used to upgrade the facilities, technological interventions can be used to monitor these homes, because if the places of shelter are places of abuse, then people run out. If the places of shelter are places of shelter in terms of your dignity rights, in terms of providing you the basic infrastructure, if I am safe at home, I will never leave my home. Similarly, if I am safe in the shelter house, I will never leave the shelter house. If my basic needs get fulfilled in the observation homes, in the old age homes, in the shelter homes or any other home by made for the vulnerable people by different legislations, then I will not run away. If there is a case of runaway that needs a strict intervention in terms of administrative checks, there cannot be a situation where you provide a safe home, balanced nutritious diet, a healthy environment, all round development avenues, and still you find people running out. So it is just that we need to monitor and implement by upgrading the technology, and by technological interventions it can be monitored sitting anywhere. You don't have to move physically just to check that. Then Article 42 talks about just and humane conditions for work and maternity relief. We have lot of laws for for humane conditions of work, for maternity relief. It is just that we have to have these rights implemented, we have to have these laws implemented strictly, and if there is any violation, then the violator should be punished and convicted by the court of law. Secondly, we should cover all organized workers under these laws, because if a lady is pregnant, irrespective whether she is working as a laborer in the field, in the farm, in the agriculture, in a private firm, she is a pregnant lady. So the maternity benefit relief should be made available to her if we are talking about living in 5th generation of human rights. Article 43 talks about living wages for workers. The minimum wages, and other labor laws should be amended in the interest of the workers. Last year we had amendments, but all the workers should be reflected under these laws. Technological interventions should be there to monitor and administer the places of employment, and work profile should also be added, because in terms of the changing needs, even the work profile has changed. So you have to address the different work profiles as per the labor laws. Then, irrespective of its nature and organization, the labor law should be implemented strictly at all places. Free and compulsory education, Article 45, for children below the age of 14 years, when we have Article 21A, which talks about right to education to all the children below the age of 14 years. When we have Right to Education Act, then there is a strict need to implement these laws and provide quality education to all children, irrespective of the fact where they belong to and who they are. Article 46 talks about, protecting scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and weaker sections of the society from social injustice and all forms of exploitations. The NGOs, the stakeholders, the commissions should come together and work for the vulnerable people and address this issue. Article 48 talks about organization of agriculture and animal husbandry by the state, and this should be the priority of every state, because a lot of people are earning very good amount of money by animal husbandry, and some people are not able to afford even a cow or a goat. So that needs to be addressed. It should not be commercialized but used for social good. Then 51A talks about that everybody has a duty to abide by the Constitution of India, and this should be the mantra of developing together and addressing the issues of vulnerability and removing human trafficking from India. So if we follow and abide by the Constitution of India, it will be that we are doing our duty and protecting some of these rights. Article 51E talks about promoting harmony and brotherhood amongst all people irrespective of their religion. So in cases of human trafficking, this is the need of the hour. If we are able to address this issue, we have a sense of brotherhood. No hate speeches, because we all are Indian citizens. We don't have to look down upon victims of human trafficking or the survivors of human trafficking, because they are vulnerable people. They have come into this situation because the fundamental rights, the directive principles, the fundamental duties, the different legislations and the human rights could not be implemented properly at the grassroots level. So the state has to come forward and take hold of them till they are reintegrated in the society. We have a duty towards people who have been human trafficked. So human beings are not to be trafficked. We should not be customers, but we are human beings. So let us end this trafficking. Stay happy and stay safe. I will join you in the next session of another legislations. Thank you.